Consistency, baby. So you heard the music, AJ?
Oh yeah, I heard it loud and clear.
I didn't hear it.
Yeah, I heard it. And it came out through my. I guess because you mute us when you do it, like it comes out.
I don't. It does it by itself.
Oh, okay. It comes out through my. I was like, it sounded weird, and I realized it was coming out through my speakers, not my head or earphones, earbuds.
Yeah, because I didn't hear anything. All right, well, so I hope y'all heard the intro. Otherwise, it was just a peaceful, quiet one. Maybe that's better. My name is Judah Buddha. I'm here with AJ Herschel, the kid, and we are blessed with the presence of, what do you call him? The stud.
The absolute stud. There's an adjective there.
It's Jared.
It's like the Incredible Hulk, the Invincible Iron Man, the absolute stud. It's like that's what it's on par with. That's what we're talking about.
Wow. Okay.
Maybe a little closer to the Captain America sort of things. Maybe a little closer to like real world Chris Evans, especially on Twitter. So maybe Captain America is the comp.
What's going on Twitter? Explain that.
No, he's just vocal on Twitter.
Oh, is he?
Mm-hmm.
Chris Evans?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. Okay, well, how are you guys doing today? I haven't seen you. How was your 4th?
It's good. Uneventful for the most part. Like we saw fireworks in 3 cities over, but other than that, it was good. I'm convinced my city is the largest city. For like the quietest city for its capita. Let me say that. Like it's baseball season and that's it over here.
Oh, in Westmont?
Yep.
Yeah. What about you, Jared? Did you guys have any fireworks?
I mean, everywhere I've been, it's just like year-round fireworks. You know, for a solid week leading up to Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of July, New Year's Eve, St. Patrick's Day, Earth Day, just anything. We're shooting off fireworks or something. So
how does what's your dog? You have 2 dogs, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did they react?
They actually did fine. They I mean, it's not like super close around here, but yeah, there were fireworks going off, and so they barked like the first time, like what is that? And so the puppy Kylo had, he's probably heard him before. He probably did hear him back around Memorial Day or something, but he so I kind of got him and petted him, through a few of them, and then they were just fine after that. So
okay, oh, good. Okay.
What about you? What about you, Judah? How did you do?
Oh man, we had some beautiful fireworks. We went out on the pier in the Sound, and we had people on the next pier over shooting up expensive. I mean, these must be like a bunch of rich people shooting up fireworks, and then we had them at various. We can over the water we can see various municipalities, and everybody was doing them. So it was amazing. It was fun. And we had a great little cookout. And, good times all around. My cousin from L.A. was visiting, and that was fun.
Nice.
Yeah, him and his family, they're wonderful people. Well, we got a ring-a-ding-ding. Thomas is here.
I think that was a coincidental ring-a-ding-ding from my computer.
Well, ding-a-ding-ding, we got Thomas H. saying, I heard the RotoHackers extended AJ Herschel for 10 years. Okay, well, let's unless you guys have any objections, let's get into the news.
News in the NFL today.
All right, so the news. is.
I didn't get paid, unfortunately. I'm sorry, Thomas.
He's still on the rookie deal. We've got
Yeah.
we've got a couple more years of him on the rookie deal.
Right, exactly.
So it's actually 12 years that Mahomes is getting paid for 12 years, 450 around 450 million with an M dollars, and 225 guaranteed. He could quit today and have $225 million. Does this impact fantasy at all?
I don't think it does this year. I mean, it's like every team. It's kind of like with Seattle, although their impact was more on really defense than offense. But, once you start having to pay your quarterback, then there's just less money to go around. But it doesn't really mean much of anything this year. They've got Travis Kelce. I don't think he's actually, I don't remember exactly when his contract will be up, but Tyreek Hill, they just gave him a new deal not that long ago. They've got their running backs cheap for the next few years. Damian Williams won't cost much. They drafted Edwards-Helaire. Really, I think the only thing and it's not going to impact fantasy unless you're just high on the Kansas City defense. But, in a year or two, you're going to be seeing a watered down Kansas City defense, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So is that why teams start, like really good teams, their defense starts to really fall apart because they have to pay their skilled positions more?
Yeah, I mean, especially quarterback, because that's what happened with the Colts with Andrew Luck. Well, that was part of it. If you're drafting well, then ideally you've got young guys to come along to replace the veterans that you had. But lightning's not gonna strike twice all that often. So, you really have to be a good GM and able to draft well, to kind of keep pieces around that quarterback, because that quarterback deal takes up so much. And for the Chiefs, though, it's hard to fault that deal with Patrick Mahomes. Unless he gets hurt or something, you can't ever really account for that. But so many teams have had so many worse deals, like when the Ravens paid Joe Flacco, they had to pay him right after they won the Super Bowl, and you're just going, oh my goodness. They have to pay him because they just won a Super Bowl, and you can't, kill the morale of your fan base by just letting him walk or something. But really, they would have been better off just to let him walk. And, guys like Dak, the money that Dak's going to make, is it really going to be worth it for the Cowboys, or would it really just be better for them to just, maybe let him walk? But Mahomes, you can't argue with the Chiefs paying that guy.
It's pretty sweet. Okay, AJ, we haven't heard from you. What do you think?
Well, I was talking to my younger brother who's a Chiefs fan, and I told him, hey, you're going to be in college when Mahomes stops being a Chiefs player. For the Chiefs, I think it's great because you just locked up what will ideally be multiple Super Bowl winning, multiple MVP quarterback. And for Mahomes, you've got yourself locked in for a decade, literally. And fantasy-wise, this year, later down the pipeline, by the time we get to 2023, why am I saying that? 2023, it might take some effect at that point if things start going wrong. But right now, this is just kind of nice to know. Well, as of right now, he's not going to a different team. As long as he doesn't get traded, he isn't going anywhere else.
He's got a no-trade clause, too.
There you go. As long as nothing drastic happens, he'll be going pick 30 for the next 7 years in fantasy.
Wow.
That's what it looks like to me.
It's hard to fault them for paying this guy so much. I'd want to lock him up for 12 years as well.
Mm-hmm.
The guy is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So the only fantasy implication that, for me, I don't know, as somebody who has Mahomes in a lot of my leagues already. Oh, ring a ding ding. Is that somebody likes that? That is that it just it feels a lot more secure in the sense that the team obviously loves him very much. I don't know. It's hard to really pull anything out of this. It just as a Mahomes owner, it just feels like, yeah, okay, things. There's nothing. I guess it's not the presence of anything positive as much as that you wouldn't expect, as much as there's not anything negative, right? There's no unexpected like going on. So it's just keeping going good.
One thing I was thinking about was, I think really there's probably more impact from this deal, not on the Chiefs, but on other teams, because now Mahomes has set the bar for quarterbacks, and so Dak's wanting to get paid. I mean, Dak's the big one, the immediate one, and then there'll be other guys
Lamar,
following behind him. Yeah, Lamar in a couple of years.
Could Lamar press for it sooner?
No, not like in the next 2 years, I'd say, because he's still I don't want to say he's a liability, but he's a big risk the way he runs around in today's NFL. So give it 2 years. If the Ravens get continued success, he wins one Super Bowl, that's when he's ready to ask.
Yeah, I mean, even Mahomes, as good as he's been, you think about this is going into his fourth season, right? No, I think it's fourth. Didn't he get drafted in 2017? So
sounds right.
Let's see. Well, so 17, 18, 19, and then 20 will be his fourth season. And so they're doing it because like him and Trubisky and all these guys are going into their fourth season. And I think, right, well, we can just, I don't know. We can look.
No, this is his third season.
No, it isn't, because he sat a year behind Alex Smith. He had his MVP campaign, and then he won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. So this is his fourth season.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to start, but they have to go ahead and do it now, really, as opposed to, or they need to go ahead and do it now as opposed to wait until, because, you get into all that about the 5th-year option and all these different things. So, I mean, I think Lamar will probably, just wait like all the other guys, and this seems to be kind of like the standard time, pretty much, to do it.
Okay. Well, there is some adjoining news, unless you guys have more to talk about that. But so the headline is Chiefs RB's coach expects big jump for Williams, Damian Williams. If he's the starter next year, it would be ridiculous not to play him more. I mean, we've seen him when he's healthy do great. Is this bad news for all the what's his name? CEH
Edwards-Helaire.
Because I noticed I was playing somebody. I was like, why are they so much ahead of me as far as the projections? It's because they had Edwards-Helaire as their flex, and Yahoo is projecting him for 17 points in his first game. 17 fantasy points. That has to include a lot of yards, a lot of touches, a lot of snaps. I feel like that's some fool's gold. Maybe it's just because I don't have him anywhere. Maybe I'm biased in that sense. What do you guys think?
It's too early to tell with CEH. And especially just hearing the coach saying Damian Williams is going to break big this year. Normally I'd be like, okay, but we've been in coronavirus. People have been at home. The training camps just started. Okay, how much can you tell that he's going to have a big season? So either way, it could go either way. He could be completely right and Damian Williams could explode, which, I mean, if coach knows his players, so there you go. But in terms of CEH, his ADP right now is ridiculous. Where he's going right
Mhm.
now is crazy, especially in comparison to what's his name?
Damian Williams. Oh,
No, compared to who? Oh God, I think he meant like compared to other rookie running backs. Who? Oh.
well, I mean, here we go. So in
Com-
comparison to who?
In comparison to guys like Jonathan Taylor, who like they have more of a case to be going where they're going around 45. CEH is going 30. He's going about 30 is his ADP right now. That's crazy. If anything, it could be a running back split, and if Williams explodes, that could be big. And then you're going to make everybody look ridiculous for drafting him in the 8th round while people were drafting CEH in the 3rd.
Yeah, that's the thing for me is, and I saw like Andy Behrens of Yahoo Sports was saying that he would even take CEH as a 2nd round pick.
Oh
And I'm like, okay.
Well, and so he's probably the one. He's probably the one projecting him for so many fantasy points. Because look, if you get a running back in the 2nd round that's giving you 17 points in the first game, there's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
That's what what's his name? Josh Jacobs is projected to get. You know?
Yeah.
Josh
Yeah.
Jacobs didn't have any competition though.
Yeah, it's what he's basing it off of the offense, of course, that he's in. Basically saying, the trade-off is going to be that offense is going to score so many points, and he's kind of going back to what they scored in the playoffs there, where they were just throwing down 42 a game. If they keep doing that, and they're capable of that, I guess. Then he's probably gonna maybe meet that. But I mean, to me, there's just so many unknowns where you never know for sure how a rookie running back is going to come in and do. He's not, he's not like a Jacobs type, or I mean, he's not a Saquon Barkley type. He's a great fit for the Chiefs offense, but I don't know. It just scares me to take him at that point when you can get Damian Williams in, say you take him in the 7th round. 4 rounds later, you can get a guy who, is maybe going to produce the same amount or maybe produce more to start with. So it's really tough for me to take Edwards-Helaire or Jonathan Taylor at the spots they're at. It scares me.
Well, that's a good segue to. Well, I mean, the whole discussion is a good segue to some other information that's coming out, and that is that we're seeing. So, the league has cut down the preseason games to 2, but now we're seeing a lot of pushback from the union or somebody saying
Players Association.
Players Association, that's what it's called, but also the Association of Health Professionals in the NFL, saying we want 0 preseason and we want less games in the season. What do you guys think? Do you think who's going to get their way? Is there going to be a preseason?
I don't know about preseason. They're not going to cut. They're not cutting regular season games unless it gets really bad. I mean, really, really, really bad. Within the teams themselves. I tend to think they're probably going to have a couple of preseason games. I think they're going to want to have some sort of warm up, but at the same time, we're about a month away and cases just keep spiking. So, I don't think it's a guarantee. And if we don't have a preseason, then that affects things. You think about teams having, no opportunity to go up against another team. That makes the case for any players whose roles weren't pretty set last year, whose roles weren't, they're not just sort of continuing this year. That makes pretty much all of those guys, shakier draft picks in fantasy.
Mm-hmm. I think preseason is going to be really interesting. I think we're going to see a lot. If it does leave, it's going to leave us seeing a lot of teams rusty out of the gate, which was interesting because we saw last year, especially, the Bears didn't even start any of their starters basically for any game, and they came out looking terrible. At least their offense did, especially at the beginning of the season. So if you don't have preseason, I think you'll see some teams excel in that kind of format, but you'll see some teams that completely falter and need the preseason to get ready. Now, I think eventually the players and fans, I'll say that, are going to have their way with getting rid of the preseason because it seems to be becoming more and more irrelevant, especially with the NFL schedule getting extended to 17 games. Playoffs are going to be longer, all that. I think this year we probably still will end up with maybe a preseason game or two, but in the long run, eventually I think preseason games are going to go the way of the dinosaur.
I think preseason that'll probably be the concession, right? They give them the preseason and keep the regular season. But here's a difficulty, because this isn't even about COVID in the sense of like whether or not it's a big problem. To me, it's hard to tell. Deaths keep dropping nationally, and actually in Georgia, where they're the first to open up, their deaths are dropping precipitously.
Death rates. He means like people aren't coming back to life, but death rate is dropping. Yep.
Yeah. Death rate. But so, from peaking at 119 to like now being at 21, that's huge. A huge drop in death rates, right?
You get your dad jokes in. You get your dad jokes in. I gotta have one once in a while.
That was good. Oh man, I can talk to you. Okay, so but here's the thing: is that cases do make a are going to make a difference for the NFL in the sense that since COVID is so contagious, if you get a team that is wiped out by COVID, not deaths, right? They just all have the flu. That could be a real problem.
The crazy, the craziest what if I saw, and I hadn't really thought this far ahead, because we've been thinking about like, are we even going to have a season? How's this going to affect fantasy, of course, because that's what we're normally talking about. But I saw, and I can't remember who was talking about this, but basically it was like an official statement or whatever that like, yeah, say we get to a week before the Super Bowl and your quarterback tests positive, he can't play. Doesn't matter if he's asymptomatic or what, they can't play. So we've kind of talked about it, but to bring it back to fantasy, we've talked about it before, like, you're going to have guys that are going to get it. They're going to test positive, and then you're going to lose them for 2 weeks. And say they test positive on game day, you may lose them really for 3.
Yeah.
And on top of that, then you're going to have all these decisions about if you've got a guy, going in the Sunday night game or the Monday night game versus, somebody who maybe you don't like quite as much in the Sunday day game, but your guy in the Sunday day game gets cleared and he's going. Are you going to be like, okay, am I going to chance this or not? So it really does create an interesting set of dilemmas for this fantasy season.
Yeah, I mean, to me, in talking about it, the biggest realization, having seen it go through my whole office, my family so fast, is in a week you could see a whole team, and they're not going to be able. The whole team won't be able to play for 2 weeks. That's going to wipe out. That's going to wipe out whole swaths of games.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that's partially because one of the things that's been starting up again is soccer's getting back into it, and the MLS is having the same problem where FC Dallas in Texas has their team said we're not playing. at all. Too many of our players have coronavirus. We're just not going to play. So, like you to your point, Judah, like you said, what happens if one player tests positive? Well, then on the 60-man roster, how many of them have caught it ever since they've been practicing or whatever? So we could end up in a situation where we end up seeing third strings play or a team maybe not being able to play a game. It's dangerous at that point, especially for fantasy-wise, because you don't know who's safe and who's not.
I wonder what the NFL would do in terms of, like they we occasionally have, like a hurricane or something like that where they have to, look at moving a game. But I can't remember if they've pushed any of those down the line to like a bye week, if the teams had the bye week or anything like that. But
yeah, they have with the hurricane.
It's called Miami Tampa a couple years back. Wasn't that one of them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think I remember correctly.
Yeah. So, that could be an option but again, that's 1 week, and if you've got them out for 2 weeks, then what do you do there? So, I just wonder if they have a plan in place for some of that, but and the tough thing is though, with stuff like, if it wasn't for the Super Bowl, you could just say, okay, we're going to kick the games down, another week or 2 weeks. We'll extend the season by a couple of weeks, but Super Bowl's set, so I don't know how they're going to handle that.
Well, one way I'd be handling it, if I was a coach, if I was in the organization, go have a COVID party. That's what I'd be saying. I would.
I know you would.
Now it gets a little dangerous though with those. You'd have to be careful. You'd be like, "Hey, Eddie, you're overweight. You can't go to the party." The diabetes problem. Sorry, buddy. I'm gonna hold you out on this one. Sideline you for this. But otherwise,
this is why we're unauthorized.
Yes, exactly. We need an intro for that segment. We need a weekly segment of why we're unauthorized.
There we go.
So obviously they're not going to officially do it that way, but
I'm pretty sure they're probably not going to do it unofficially that way either.
Yeah.
But
that's a lot of money on the line. You'd be surprised what people do for that. All that money.
A lot of money on the line for what?
Do we have another topic?
What do you mean for what? Like, the NFL is going to lose out a lot of money if they cancel the season.
Yeah, but you jumped from like canceling or like missing a game or two to canceling the season though. But that doesn't mean like if a team gets hit and they have to do something with those games or something, that doesn't mean the season's going to get canceled. And in some ways, like if you start hearing reports that like all these players have COVID in July, I don't know that that's necessarily going to better your case for like, no, don't worry, it'll be fine.
No, but it'll help the chances. But here's the thing. You're not completely seeing what I'm seeing. I'm not saying everybody is out for 2 weeks, right? The whole team is out for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying half of them are out for 2 weeks, then the other half get them, or you get a third of them that are out for 2 weeks, your main guys, and then your defense is out for 2 weeks, then your special teams is out for 2 weeks. Like this could really be a problem. Not because anybody dies or gets hurt, but because you don't want to just keep when I had it, my biggest fear was that my wife would get it, not because I thought she was going to die, but because we had to move soon. There was a game coming up, and if she got it, we weren't going to be able to go to my parents' house, and so she ended up despite my best efforts. Now, of course, I had kids crawling all over me all the time. So, at the beginning, before I really knew I had it, I knew I had an idea I had it, but I didn't know for sure. And they spread it. So, but it's just like, it's so contagious that it's.
Yeah, but you know what the NFL is going to say is they're going to say, look at the end of the season where sometimes teams' rosters are just decimated by injuries, and they still have to play. So that's going to be, I can guarantee you, that's going to be the NFL's standpoint on it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So you see, I guess I'm talking about like the more I think about it, the less I think they're going to be able to finish the season. You're saying, nah, even if a lot of them are out, they'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've talked before. Like the NFL is going to be the thing that outlasts everything. It's going to be in the post-apocalyptic Earth. It's going to be like cockroaches, Twinkies, and the NFL that have survived. So I think they're gonna. I'm trying to think of like what would have to happen for them to stop doing it. I think they would have to have like multiple deaths. I think they would have to have like multiple deaths before they would cancel it.
AJ, feel the same way?
Man, it's interesting. I think I'm going to be very curious to see what the NFL does in terms of protocol, especially because, like, I remember initially the MLB came out with their they have a 101-page coronavirus protocol that all the players have to follow. So I do wonder how strict the NFL is going to be. If it doesn't happen, it's going to be a long fall and winter. But if it does, I mean, I'm with Jared on this. The NFL's it's gonna find a way to happen. At the end of the day, it's just going to be 7-on-7 flag football and in the snow, and that's what's going to happen if they have to. The NFL will continue.
So for fantasy, this is my fear. The randomness of that situation, because I've invested a lot into fantasy at this point, and my hope is that it's either or. Like either they have a great season and I can compete, or I just get all that money back at the I don't know, at some point. I don't know. I need a. Did you ever get your money back from NBA?
I did. Yeah, they ended up just refunding everybody's money, which sucks for people that were dominating their league or something, But this was my first season back playing in like 20 years, and I had a couple of teams that were. Let's see. I'm trying to think how many head-to-head in Roto. I only had 3 teams. One was Roto, one was head-to-head, and I can't remember which the other one was. But, I mean, one of mine had a chance to finish like maybe 3rd, and then another one had a chance to maybe make the playoffs and maybe finish, in the top few or something. But I pocket dropped one of my best players in one league and all that, and so I was just like, okay, yeah, just give me my money back. I'm fine with this being a test run. So if they don't finish the season, they'll just give you your money back, So
yeah, so I'm okay with that, and I'm okay with them having just a regular season. What I'm not okay with is this random season of like, oh, okay, great. Lamar Jackson's out for 2 weeks. Great. Oh, all his running backs too. Great. I also have them on my team. All right. I don't get my kicker this week. Nice. That's really fair.
It is making me think like, how much money do I want to put in this season, like with the added randomness of it, because, say teams do, get hit and you lose some of your star guys for 3 weeks. I mean, that's going to make all the difference. So yeah, I don't know. I'm really going to have to, because up to this point, I've done a couple of $100 teams, mostly just done like a bunch of little $20 teams. So it's going to, but the auctions, like the bigger money auction drafts open up in August. Mm-hmm. So that's where I really have to start figuring out like, how much money do I want to wager on this? And normally it doesn't, just to finish up, normally it doesn't feel like a gamble. I always say, it's not gambling if you win every time. Not every time, but if you win money every season. But now, with this, like every time you add another variable, then it becomes more of a gamble. So
I was just thinking it probably does if stuff like this happens, and depending on how it tones down with the NFL starting up, I do think it makes auction drafts a little bit riskier too, because if you're spending so much money on bigger players and the rest of your roster is weak, just one of those guys gets knocked out, you're in trouble.
True.
Meanwhile, in a snake draft, it's a lot easier to get a well-balanced team.
True.
So it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a big risk in auction leagues to take big players, because if one of those gets knocked out, you're in trouble.
Well, it depends on your auction strategy
Sure.
because yeah, some people do have that strategy where they will,
What's it called? It's like stars and losers.
Oh,
it
it probably rhymes.
What, studs and duds?
Studs, yeah, maybe studs. And duds.
That's right, AJ.
Yeah, some people do that. Some people sink all their money into like three players, and usually those teams tend to be not, from what I've seen, like not bad, but not like they're good enough to get like that fourth playoff spot or something.
Yeah.
I don't like doing that exactly, but yeah, it makes it a lot riskier this year.
Or does it? Because if a lot of elite players go out, there's going to be a lot of opportunity to pick up the second, third round. And one of the things I want to do on RotoHackers is go through depth charts and really help our viewers and us have a good understanding of who's next on the roster, who's next up, because I think that's going to be really important this year. You might have one day to figure out, okay, who's who's DK Metcalf's backup,
Every he caught a few touchdowns. He had like a couple of good games.
Is it DJ Moore?
I think
David Moore. David Moore.
That sounds right.
I think it might be him. Yeah, but maybe like
David Moore. Good call.
Depending on what time of year it is, maybe DK Metcalf is Antonio Brown's backup. So,
yeah.
No, but yeah, it's going to be. Oh gosh, I forgot where I was going with that point. Yeah, we'll
knowing depth chart and having elite players being taken down, I feel like it's gonna make the waiver wire really important.
Yeah, I remember. I was just gonna say, like, maybe it just turns into where almost every week is basically like weeks 15 and 16, where your rosters are nothing like what they looked like at the beginning of the year, and you're just like, crap, who can I plug in here this week? But the thing that I hope Yahoo would do, the thing that would be kind of nice if we start having this problem, is if they would expand rosters by a couple of bench slots or something. Because already, like, there's just guys out there on the waiver wire that I'm like, oh man, I wish I could pick that guy up, but I mean, I don't have a spot for him. So
yeah, we've talked a little bit about how I'm making sure. I've never really loaded up on QBs, but this year I'm making sure to have at least two, because you get one QB out for 2 weeks and that could destroy your league. And I'd much rather have Roethlisberger than I don't know,
Case Keenum.
Is Case Keenum still playing?
He's
still playing. Where is he?
He's for Washington. Washington has this.
He's starting?
No, he's not. He's not starting. Washington just has this sort of, or I think he's still with Washington.
Wait, no, Keenum's with the Browns now.
He's with the Browns. Okay, yeah. I guess they finally got rid of him. But Washington sort of had this. What is Washington's depth chart now? Because they've got Dwayne Haskins, Alex Smith, is he
Allen.
Kyle Allen, that was the other guy they traded for. Yeah. So like Washington's just this team that has like 3 quarterbacks, but no quarterbacks.
Right.
So yeah.
And who did they have last year? It was like Case Keenum, Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah, it was
like Brock Osweiler. There was someone else in there.
Oh yeah, I think you're right.
It wasn't Osweiler.
No. It was some jamoke like that. It was. I think it might have been Cody. What's his name?
Cody Kessler?
Cody Kessler or something like
Is
that.
it Cody Kessler? That doesn't sound right to me.
No, it doesn't sound right to me either.
Oh,
There was somebody
Colt
like
McCoy.
Colt
Colt
McCoy.
McCoy.
Texas
I knew it
Golden
started with
Boy.
a C.
That's a lot of like. Have we seen all those guys in different places at the same time? Like, are Case Keenum, Colt McCoy, Cody Kessler, are these all separate people, or are they just kind of the same person who's
See,
like,
all we need is Brandon Whedon, and this group will be complete.
yeah, yeah.
His name doesn't start with a K.
It doesn't. It doesn't. But like, if he changed his name, I feel like him and Sage Rosenfels would also fit in with that group there.
Also, Sam Bradford, who I forgot was still playing as well.
He's
still there.
what? Get out of here.
Where? With who? With who?
I can't remember if he's even signed right now, but technically, he's still playing. I think.
No, he's
No, no.
gone.
Oh no.
I don't think he's right. Okay. Well, to wrap things up, the last question I had for you is, as this news comes out, as rookies are starting to settle, in my mind, rookies are starting to look worse with all the news about not having an offseason or preseason. How's that affecting your rankings? In the last 15 minutes, where are you guys' rankings at?
I just thought of something like Yahoo's rankings. I did a best ball, another $5 best ball the other day. Yahoo's rankings, if you haven't seen them lately, if you haven't drafted lately, have changed dramatically.
Really? Oh well, Debo fell a lot, obviously.
Yeah, but even stuff like James Conner, who was like a 5th round sort of guy, and then people just started taking him 4th round or so. I think he's up to 32, 33, something like that. Like Miles Sanders went from around 20 to where he was typically being taken around 13 or something like that. I don't have them offhand unless they may have actually updated the composite ones. Let's see if they have.
Well, I mean, to your point, I noticed about 2 weeks ago when I did a draft and there was no bot drafting.
Mm-hmm.
You would look at the rankings and the next up, to be picked, and it would just stay the same for so long.
Yeah.
Because
okay.
people were just like, no, I'm not going to take that. Go ahead.
Yeah. So they have here. I'll just go down through here and point out some of the big changes I noticed. Like Miles Sanders has jumped up from about 20 or so to 14, and he's basically switched places with Josh Jacobs, who's now dropped down to number 20. Let's see.
Why do you think Josh fell so much? What's up with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think they're just not expecting the offense to be that strong. And so then I actually undersold James Conner. James Conner's all the way up to 29. Now that is much less attractive for James Conner, who I was liking as like a 5th round pick, maybe a late 4th round pick, all the way up to 29 for a guy that's that injury prone becomes a lot less attractive.
Well, they got Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 24.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I'd rather have Conner.
Yeah, potentially. Let's see. Let me just breeze on through some of these here. See if there's anybody else. Scary Terry, he's jumped up to 44. So,
AJ Brown too. You skipped over him. 31 now.
Yeah, he was already like a mid 30s somewhere in there. But I do notice that he tends to not get drafted at that spot. He tends to go a little later than that.
AJ Brown?
AJ Brown, yeah, from what I've seen. Swift is up to 48.
What about Taylor? I bet he's jumped.
Taylor, I think he's hovered around the same spot. He's at 37, and that's typically Calvin Ridley's jumped up a little bit. He's 38.
A little bit.
So those are kind of, let's see, I'm just looking kind of in the 50 to 100 range here. See if there's anybody else that's really kind of.
Well, is it just me, or did Mahomes and and Jackson fall a little bit?
In the rankings, I think they did a little bit, but I'm curious to see like if
Where people take him?
where people are taking them, because people were already drafting them, above
Second
their
round.
slot anyway. Yeah, like sometimes second round, or at least they're always gone by the middle of the third round. So I'm not sure if they'll actually go where they're getting projected or not.
Do you know where? While looking at the list, where is Amari Cooper right now? Because I know he keeps fluctuating too.
He's one spot behind Ridley.
There it is.
He's at 39, behind Ridley at 38.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, because I did a mock
man.
draft and I was like, oh, sweet, Calvin Ridley. And then I realized, why am I taking a number 2 receiver in a difficult division over Amari Cooper as the number 1?
I would take
Ridley,
Calvin Ridley over Amari Cooper any day.
I think I would too. Yeah, because Amari is just like, I don't mind. I wouldn't mind Amari in best ball, but I think things have gotten more complicated with with Gallup having another season of experience going into his third season, drafting CeeDee Lamb, and then the Falcons are kind of a weird situation where you've got Julio Jones there. Julio Jones is going to get a ton of catches. He's going to get a ton of yards, but he's allergic to touchdowns. And so, they've got a new tight end. They don't really have like a strong number 3 receiver. And so, Ridley is maybe not going to put up monster receptions or yards, but I think he's going to be, he's still going to get a ton of touchdowns. So,
and I just don't think skill wise, Amari Cooper, I think he's going to get passed up by CeeDee Lamb and Gallup.
Interesting.
If he continues on his trajectory of every year getting worse and worse with catches and his catches and his routes run, just terrible. It's gotten worse and worse, and that's according to reception perception guy. What's his name from Yahoo? Matt Harmon.
The weird thing with Amari Cooper is that he is probably the most inconsistent number 1 in the NFL, in the sense that he could catch 2 balls for 12 yards or 10 for 3 touchdowns and look like some freakish combination of Odell and Julio and just come out of nowhere for like a day at home against the Eagles. And technically speaking, he had his best year ever last year. He had more touchdowns than he'd ever had. He'd had more yards than he'd ever had. Second most receptions in a year. Theoretically, he should have been great, but it's just the inconsistency with Amari Cooper, whether or not you don't know if you're going to get number 1 Amari Cooper or slippery hands Amari Cooper. That's the thing with him. It's confusing.
And you were even generous with his floor of being like 2 catches, because his floor is 0. His floor is 2 targets and 0 catches. Yeah. And I think he did that. I think he did that twice last year. I want to look it up just to check, but one of them was that New England game.
Yep.
New England game.
Against the Jets too.
Yeah. Against the Jets, he had 2 targets, 1 catch, and 3 yards. Against New England, he had 2 targets, 0 catches, 0 yards. And against the Rams, he had 2 targets, 1 catch, 19 yards. So his floor is just almost. His floor is 0. So, I hate boomer bust players. Boomer bust players. So for him at that draft spot, it's a no for me when there's other options available. Now, if he was in an auction draft and he was dirt cheap in an auction draft, then I would be more willing to take him. But not as like a 4th round pick over guys like Ridley or even a tight end or a running back or something like that.
Yeah, this is what Matt Harmon said. Noted last year, his success rate versus press coverage scores has gone down each NFL season. Bigger difference was playing slot outside of the line as a flanker. Oakland. What do you say? The bigger difference is playing slot outside of the line as a flanker more, and thus seeing press fewer than any point in his career at Oakland. And honestly, I came away from charting Amari, saying that the Raiders were much more optimistic about John Gruden and his offense because of their use of Cooper and overall confidence. Anyways, I remember him talking about him just saying that he's just looked. Oh, here it is. Amari Cooper reception perception contrast catch conversion rate. 2014, 50% conversion rate. 2015, 61.5%. 2016, 57.1, staying pretty steady.
Okay.
2017, 16.7.
Ugh, that was his bad year, though. He had a really bad year that year.
Well, 2018 was not much better.
That would have been when he split the year between Oakland and Dallas, right? Yeah.
So, anyways, he just.
So, what's his most recent year? Do you know what his most recent year is then?
He doesn't have that. He says his NFL average is 64%, which is not great.
What's crazy is he got that 5-year, $100 million deal. You know, like you have to think, like, if the Cowboys had known that they were going to be able to get CeeDee Lamb, they would be like, oh man, we should have like franchise tagged him and then just let him walk after this year.
And then it paid Dak instead. Use the money to pay Dak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're kind of in trouble, aren't they? Like, how are they gonna? Where are they gonna
like,
get all the money?
Like they just paid. They paid Zeke. They paid Zeke. They paid Amari. They got to pay. You assume they're probably going to pay Dak. Maybe they don't. Maybe Andy Dalton rolls into town and in Texas, the Red Rifle saddles up like a Texas Ranger and
red, white, and blue, baby.
Takes
Dalton,
over
Texas Ranger.
It does have a ring to it, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. Well,
then what happens then, especially if like Leighton Vander Esch becomes one of the best defensive players he's ever seen and just keeps growing? He's going to want a deal too.
Yeah, I don't think I would have paid Amari.
I wouldn't have paid Ezekiel Elliott.
Well, Zeke is he's very good in Dallas's offense. He eats up a bunch of yards and he gets them close to the end zone where they need to be. He's a big part of their offense. Meanwhile, Amari, he can get 14 targets or 2 throughout the entire season. Like, I just looked up him and Ridley's targets, and Ryan consistently went to Ridley more often as the season went on, to the point where he was getting 8 to 14 targets in his last 3 games. Cooper got like 2-14-6 in his last 3 games. There is no telling what's going to happen there. And maybe that's because Dak spreads the ball out more, or maybe that's just, I don't know. But that's with a
Gallup who was dropping everything. I was watching Gallup closely. It wasn't like Gallup was outshining him by any stretch of the imagination. He was dropping everything. CeeDee Lamb's going to CeeDee Lamb could be a real good, like a sleeper, a real good gem to get in those like later rounds. I was watching some tape on him. My old buddy, not my old buddy, but the guy I like to go back to, Gold, I think his name is. I forget what his first name is, but he does tape on, and he was saying when he went back and looked at CeeDee Lamb's tape, he was amazed that that Dallas got him so late in the draft.
I was too. I mean, I think you could make a case for him or Judy being the top receiver in that draft. I think I'll be shocked if people don't look back from now and say like, okay, Jerry Jeudy should have gone before Ruggs. CeeDee Lamb should have gone before Ruggs. Maybe even like 3 more guys like Pittman and Rager and who knows who else should have gone before Ruggs. Like, we'll see. I mean, maybe Ruggs is more of a complete receiver than I give him credit for, but I think there were some really talented guys in that draft, and Ruggs wouldn't have been the guy that I went for there.
Well, guys, it's been an interesting chat. Unless you guys have anything else to discuss, I am good with moving on to the old Betteroo.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much done for the night.
Yeah, I think that's. I think we pretty well covered. Is there anything? Let me just, while we're wrapping up, let me just flip through the headlines.
I would like to. We promised all crypto that we would draft, and so I would like to draft at some point. And I'd like to set. I mean, we're getting close to the season, guys, and I think it'd be good to start setting up a listener league, type thing.
Oh yeah, beat the RotoHackers.
Yeah, just so maybe next week we just draft for not a mock draft, but a legitimate RotoHackers.
Maybe give a little bit of time.
Yeah, I think we would have to have like, wouldn't we need to have like set a date a little ways out and and have like signups for the league to like get people, or well, not signups. I mean, we can just invite people into the league, but we probably need a little bit of time. I would say.
Well, let's announce it on Saturday, and maybe a week from Saturday we draft.
Week from Saturday.
He literally just ignored everything we said. Right?
No, I thought I incorporated what you said.
Jumping the gun a little bit there.
We get the league going next Saturday instead of drafting for it.
Oh, okay.
We wait a week and we let people sign.
Now we're back to that again.
Maybe 2 weeks. Maybe 2 weeks. Give them a little more time.
2 weeks?
Because then we'll see if the NFL's developed anymore. What's still happening with coronavirus?
Oh, you're talking about that. Oh, I thought you meant like.
We're talking about the draft,
like
postponing the draft until closer to the season.
Right.
Okay.
Like we create the league this week or something like that. This Saturday we announce it, but then have it open for people to join up until a couple weeks later.
I just want to draft so bad.
I mean, you can. I am like auction drafts opened back up. Actually, when is my auction draft? They opened back up, I think the 18th, and so I went ahead and signed up for just another little $20 auction team for that, and so I think that's like a week from Saturday, so it's like a week and a half for me or something like that. But yeah, I'm ready. I'm like itching to get back and do another auction draft. I never want to do snake drafts anymore. Like after getting into auction drafts, I'm just all auction.
That should be interesting. Do we make our new league auction or do we make it snake draft? I don't know.
I think we should do an auction.
I vote for auction.
Yeah, auction would be fun.
Yeah, just every draft is different. You never know what you're gonna get with it. And I don't like being, pinned into like just who's available at this spot. And I think it forces you to just be more strategic with your drafting.
Oh, I love the psychology that goes into it too. It's like you guys freaking getting the last little Jared getting a little bit in there right before I get my bit in. There's some fun little things you can do.
Especially if we did it on stream. That would be the best thing ever. Literally yelling at our viewers as they're bidding against.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We would have the streams.
Oh, especially since I've already drafted with Ryan, I know that he likes to wait. Man,
he drives up the price just enough to make you spend more than you want, and then stops so he doesn't get it from him instead.
Him and you, AJ. Like I kept like you guys are bidding on everything, like literally everything, and then I'm looking like, what? He doesn't spend anything.
I always feel like I'm like the auctioneer or something, because I'm usually the guy that's because I don't want to wait. Like I hate for these things to drag out, and so I will put them, like any player, I'll put them up to like a reasonable spot, and so like people want to like put Ezekiel Elliott out there and be like $1, $2, $3, like guys, let's move this along. And so I'll just be like $50, and then if you want to let me have him for $50, even if I've got 2 running backs already, sure. But then the little $1, $2, $3 thing is not as bad, because then he gets on up to whatever 58, 60, whatever. So I
think it just takes a couple more clicks, though. I think people are just lazy. I'm just lazy. I don't want to put the 5-0. Just press go. Put them in. Just click bid.
Yeah, I guess I'm impatient. Like I'm more impatient than lazy.
Well, guys, thank you for another good conversation. Thank you, viewers. Had some Thomas H in there. We have 3 viewers now. I don't know. Whoever you are, leave a message. Tell us who you are. And we'll see you again on Saturday.
Cool. Also, I got to bring in my Andy Dalton scale. I got to do that for Saturday. I got to bring that in today.
And Judah still has to take the Wonderlic.
Yep.
Send me the link again.
All right.
I'll just look it up. It's easy.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I will see you guys later.
See ya.
Oh, I gotta hit the button.
Yeah.
Do we have an outro?